The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was massive, bigger than most moons. Lights covered every surface, and ships came and went, like insects around a hive. This was the Arena of Worlds, the most famous place in the entire galaxy. Every 4 years, the greatest fighters from 1,000 different species came here to prove themselves in combat. Vorthax the Unbroken stood at the window of his private chamber and watched the ships arrive. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with 4 powerful arms and skin like black armor plates. His species, the Krethians, were born for war. They had claws that could cut through metal. They had eyes that could see in complete darkness. They feared nothing. Vorthax had won 63 fights in this arena. He had never lost. Not once. The other species called him the Unbroken because no one had ever managed to hurt him badly enough to make him fall. He was the champion, and he planned to stay the champion for many more years. A soft chime came from his door. His assistant, a small creature with too many eyes, entered the room. "The new fighters have arrived for registration," the assistant said. "There is something unusual this year." "There is always something unusual," Vorthax replied. He did not turn from the window. "What is it this time?" "A new species has entered the tournament. They call themselves humans. They come from a small planet called Earth." Now Vorthax turned. A new species was rare. Most intelligent beings in the galaxy had been discovered long ago. "Tell me about them." The assistant pulled up a holographic display. It showed a creature that made Vorthax want to laugh. The human was short, barely 2 meters tall. It had only 2 arms. Its skin looked soft, without any armor or scales or protective covering. It had no claws, no fangs, no visible weapons of any kind. "This is a joke," Vorthax said. "They were discovered 20 years ago," the assistant explained. "They have only recently been allowed to join galactic society. Their government asked to send a fighter to the games. The council agreed because they thought it would be educational for the humans to see how real warriors fight." Vorthax studied the image. The human in the picture was a male named Marcus Chen. He had dark hair cut very short, and eyes that seemed to look at nothing and everything at the same time. There were scars on his face, old wounds that had healed badly. "He has fought before," Vorthax said quietly. According to their records, he was something called a soldier, and also a fighter in something called mixed martial arts. These are human combat traditions. Traditions. What could such soft creatures know about combat? But something about the human's eyes stayed in his mind. There was a coldness there, a patience. Vorthax had seen that look before, in the eyes of predators who did not need to hurry because they knew their prey could not escape. He shook the thought away. It was foolish. This human would be destroyed in the first round, and the galaxy would forget his species ever tried to compete. The opening ceremony took place in the Great Hall of the station. 10,000 fighters stood in rows, organized by species and homeworld. Vorthax stood at the front, where the champions always stood. He wore his ceremonial armor, black and gold, polished until it shone like a dark mirror. The human stood somewhere in the back, among the other newcomers and low-ranked fighters. Vorthax could not see him from his position, but he found himself looking anyway. Something about that soft creature would not leave his thoughts. The ceremony was long and full of speeches. The council talked about honor and glory and the long history of the games. Vorthax had heard these words many times before. He did not listen. Instead, he watched the crowd. After the ceremony, there was a gathering where fighters could meet each other before the tournament began. It was tradition. Some fighters used this time to study their possible opponents. Others used it to make allies or enemies. Vorthax usually ignored these gatherings, but tonight he attended. He found the humans standing alone near a window, looking out at the stars. The other aliens kept their distance. They whispered and pointed, amused by the strange soft creature who thought it could fight. Vorthax moved closer, staying in the shadows. He wanted to observe. They were reptilian creatures, fast and deadly, with venomous spines running down their backs. Their leader was a female named Strix, a skilled fighter who had won many matches. "Little soft thing," Strix said, her voice full of mockery. "Are you lost? The observation deck for tourists is on the other side of the station." The human turned to look at her. His expression did not change. "I am in the right place," he said. His voice was calm, almost flat. "You cannot seriously believe you will survive even one match," another Veleshi said. "Look at you. You have no armor, no claws, no venom. What do you have?" The human was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made Vorthax's blood feel cold. "Hands," the human said. He held them up, showing his strange five-fingered appendages. "My species learned to kill with these a very long time ago. We got good at it." The Veleshi laughed. But Vorthax noticed that the human's eyes never changed. There was no humor in them. He was not making a joke. He was making a statement of fact. The Veleshi walked away, still laughing. The human turned back to the window and continued looking at the stars. Vorthax stayed in the shadows for a long time, watching. The human did not move. He stood perfectly still, like a stone, like a creature that had learned to wait for days or weeks or years for the right moment to strike. When Vorthax finally returned to his chamber, he called up all the information he could find about the species called humans. He read about their history. He learned about their wars, their weapons, their endless conflicts with each other. He read about how they had hunted other animals on their planet, chasing them across vast distances until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. He read until the station's artificial morning came, and when he finally stopped, his hands were shaking. The tournament would begin soon, and for the first time in 63 victories, Vorthax the Unbroken felt something he had almost forgotten: fear. The arena was a massive circle of sand and stone, surrounded by seats that rose up like mountains on all sides. 2 million aliens had come to watch the fights in person. Trillions more watched through screens across the galaxy. The air hummed with excitement, and the smell of 100 different species pressed together. Marcus Chen stood in the waiting area beneath the arena floor. He could hear the crowd above him, roaring and cheering as the first matches of the day took place. The sound was like thunder that never stopped. He closed his eyes and breathed slowly, letting his heartbeat stay calm. Around him, other fighters prepared for their matches. Some stretched their limbs. Some prayed to gods Marcus had never heard of. Some simply sat and stared at the walls, their minds already in the arena. A guard came to Marcus's cage. "Human," the guard said, "you fight next." He was wearing simple clothing, just shorts and a tight shirt that let him move freely. He had no armor. He had no weapons. The other fighters looked at him with pity or amusement. The gate opened, and Marcus walked out into the light. The arena floor was hot under his bare feet. The sand was dark in some places, stained by the blood of previous fights. The crowd fell silent for a moment when they saw him, then erupted in laughter and jeers. They had never seen anything so weak-looking enter the arena. His opponent was already waiting, a Veleshi named Krath, one of Strix's warriors. He was 2.5 meters tall, covered in green scales, with 6 limbs and a row of venomous spines running from his head to his tail. His eyes were yellow and hungry. "I will try to make this quick," Krath said. "I do not enjoy killing helpless things." He stood with his hands loose at his sides, his weight balanced, his eyes fixed on the Veleshi's chest. Not the eyes. Beginners watch the eyes. Marcus watched the body, where the real movement started. The signal sounded. The fight began. Krath moved fast, faster than most beings could see. His spined arm shot toward Marcus's throat, aimed to kill in one strike. Marcus stepped slightly to the side, The spine passed his face by a finger's width, but he did not move away. He moved forward, into the attack. Kraft's arm hit his shoulder, the spine digging into muscle. Pain exploded through Marcus's body. He ignored it. While Kraft was frozen in surprise, Marcus grabbed the arm that had stabbed him. He pulled, using the Valeshi's own momentum against him. At the same time, his other hand shot out in a quick, precise strike to a spot just below Kraft's jaw. The Valeshi's eyes went wide. His body stopped responding. Marcus had hit a nerve cluster, a pressure point that was the same in almost every species with a spine. The arm that held Marcus went limp. Marcus struck again, and again. Quick hits to specific points on the Valeshi's body. Not powerful blows meant to cause damage, but precise attacks meant to shut down the nervous system. Kraft fell to the sand. He was not dead, but he could not move. His whole body had stopped obeying him. The crowd was silent. The fight had lasted 11 seconds. Marcus pulled the venomous spine out of his shoulder. Blood ran down his arm, mixed with the purple color of the venom. He looked at it calmly, then walked back to the gate. In his private viewing box, Vorthax leaned forward. His four hands gripped the railing so hard that the metal bent. "What did he do?" his assistant asked, confused. "I did not see what he did." Vorthax did not answer. He had seen it. The human had not fought like a warrior. He had fought like a surgeon, cutting exactly what needed to be cut, nothing more. This was not combat. This was something else. Something that came from studying exactly how bodies worked, and exactly how to make them stop working. Marcus's second fight came 3 days later. His opponent was a Garanthi, a massive creature made almost entirely of muscle. Garanthi were famous for their regeneration. They could heal from almost any wound in seconds. Cut off a limb, and it would grow back. Stab them in the heart, and it would repair itself before the blood stopped flowing. No one had ever defeated a Garanthi through damage alone. The only way to beat them was to make them surrender, and Garanthi never surrendered. The fight began, and the Garanthi charged. It was like watching a mountain move. Each step shook the arena floor. Its fists were the size of Marcus's entire body. Marcus ran. The crowd booed. They thought he was afraid. But Vorthax watched carefully and saw the truth. The human was not running away. He was running in circles, staying just ahead of the Garanthi, making the creature chase him. Minutes passed. The Garanthi swung its massive arms again and again, but Marcus was never there. He ducked and dodged and kept moving, never attacking, never standing still. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. The Garanthi was slowing down. Its regeneration required energy. Every healed wound, every repaired muscle, earned through its body's reserves. And Marcus was making it burn energy just by moving. At 40 minutes, the Garanthi was gasping for breath. Its movements had become slow and clumsy. Its regeneration had stopped working. Marcus stopped running. He turned to face the exhausted creature. The Garanthi swung one last desperate punch. Marcus stepped inside the swing and struck the creature's throat. Then its knee. Then a spot on its spine. The Garanthi collapsed like a falling building. 45 minutes. Victory by exhaustion. The crowd did not laugh anymore. They watched in silence as the human walked out of the arena, blood still dripping from his earlier wound. In his viewing box, Vorthax called up records of human history again. He read about something called the Battle of Marathon, where human soldiers ran for miles and then fought a war and then ran again. He read about their ancient hunts, where they would follow animals for days without rest until the animals simply gave up and died. He read about their wars, which lasted for years, for decades, for generations. Wars where they killed millions of their own species, and then rebuild and did it again. These creatures did not fight like warriors. They did not fight for honor or glory. They fought like forces of nature, like disasters that could not be stopped, only survived. Vorthax looked down at the arena, where workers were cleaning the blood from the sand. Somewhere below, the human was probably calmly treating his wounds, preparing for his next fight. The champion of 63 battles finally understood what he was seeing. Humans were not weak creatures pretending to be strong. They were strong creatures disguised as weak ones. Evolution had made them soft on the outside, so that other predators would underestimate them. And it worked, every time. Vorthax made a decision. He would find this human and speak with him before their paths crossed in the arena. He needed to understand what he might have to face. He needed to understand what humans really were. And deep in his warrior's heart, in a place he did not like to examine, he already knew that he might not like the answer. Vorthax found the human in the medical bay, not as a patient, but as a visitor. Marcus Chen sat on a metal chair, watching video recordings on a small screen, while his hands moved with a needle and thread. He was sewing his own shoulder wound closed. There was no doctor present. There were no painkillers. The human simply pushed the needle through his own flesh, pulled the thread tight, and continued watching his videos without any change in his expression. Vorthax stood in the doorway for a long moment. He had seen warriors endure pain before. He had seen them scream and fight through terrible injuries. But he had never seen anyone treat their own wounds like they were mending a torn piece of clothing. "You can come in," Marcus said without looking up. "I know you have been watching me." Vorthax entered the room slowly. Up close, the human seemed even smaller and softer than before. His skin was covered in old scars, marks of previous injuries that had healed imperfectly. One long scar ran from his shoulder down to his elbow. Burn marks covered his left side. A thick line on his neck showed where something had once cut his throat. "You have been hurt many times," Vorthax observed. "Yes," Marcus agreed. He finished his stitching and cut the thread with his teeth. "My body does not remember a time without pain." "And yet you continue to fight." "That is what humans do." Marcus finally looked up at the champion. His eyes were calm, like the surface of deep water. "We break, we heal, we continue. It is our nature." Vorthax sat down across from the human. The chair was too small for his large body, but he made it work. "I have read about your species. I have studied your history. I do not understand what I found." "What confuses you?" "Everything." Vorthax spread his forearms in a gesture of frustration. "Your bodies are weak. You have no natural weapons. You are easily killed. And yet your history is nothing but war. War against animals. War against nature. War against each other. Endless, constant war." Marcus nodded slowly. "You want to know how creatures like us became so violent. I want to know how creatures like you survived being so violent." The human was quiet for a moment. He set down his needle and thread and turned to face Vorthax fully. When he spoke, his voice was soft, like he was sharing a secret. "Do you know what a persistence predator is?" Vorthax shook his head. "Most predators in the galaxy hunt the same way. They are fast, or strong, or venomous. They attack quickly and kill quickly. If the attack fails, they give up and look for easier prey." "This is the efficient way to hunt," Vorthax said. "Yes, but humans evolved differently." Marcus leaned forward. "We cannot run faster than our prey. We cannot overpower them. We cannot catch them in a single attack. So instead, we followed them. Followed them. For hours, for days, across plains and mountains and deserts. Our prey would run from us, and we would walk after them. They would rest, and we would keep walking. They would run again, and we would keep walking. Eventually their bodies would overheat. Their hearts would give out. They would fall down and be unable to stand again. And then we would walk up to them and kill them. Vorthax felt a chill move through his body. You hunted by never stopping. We evolved to chase things until they died of exhaustion. Marcus smiled, but there was no happiness in it. This is in our blood, in our bones. Humans do not know how to give up. It is not in our nature. We will keep coming until we win or until we are dead. There is no other option in our minds. That is insane. But it works. Vorthax thought about the fights he had witnessed. The Valeshi who had been taken apart in seconds. The Garanthi who had been run into exhaustion. Now he understood. The human had not been fighting. He had been hunting. There is something else, Marcus said. He rolled up his sleeve, showing more scars. Do you see these marks? Vorthax looked. There were scars from cuts, from burns, from punctures. Some were old and faded. Some were newer. All of them had healed strangely, the skin thick and twisted. Human bodies heal wrong, Marcus explained. When we are injured, we do not regenerate cleanly like some species. We build scar tissue. The new skin is harder, tougher than the original. It does not feel pain the same way. You become stronger from injury? In a way, but more important than that, we become used to pain. We have chemicals in our bodies that block pain during combat, during stress, during fear. When we fight, we feel almost nothing. The injuries are still there. The damage is still real. But we do not feel it until the fight is over. Vorthax stared at the human. He had faced warriors from 100 species. He had killed creatures that could regenerate, creatures that felt no fear, creatures born with natural armor and weapons. But he had never faced something like this. A creature that ignored damage. A creature that never stopped coming. A creature that got meaner every time it was hurt. Why are you telling me this? Vorthax asked. Marcus shrugged. You asked, and I believe you deserve to know what you might face if we meet in the arena. It would not be fair to hide it. Fair, Vorthax repeated. The word felt strange. You think about fairness? Humans always think about fairness. We have strong feelings about what is right and what is wrong. We kill each other over these feelings. We die for them. We will destroy everything we have built to protect an idea of justice. That is also insane. Yes, that is also who we are. Vorthax stood up. He needed to leave this room. He needed to think about what he had learned. But before he reached the door, Marcus spoke again. Champion. Vorthax turned. When your species first went to the stars, did you find other intelligent life? Yes, several species. We made allies and enemies, as all species do. Marcus nodded. When humans first went to the stars, we were alone for a long time. We searched and searched, but we found nothing. Empty planets, dead worlds. We began to wonder if we were the only intelligent life in the entire universe. That must have been lonely. It was. But it was also terrifying, because we started to ask ourselves a question. If the universe is so big and so old, why have we found no one else? Where are all the other species? Marcus paused. We came up with many answers. Maybe intelligent species destroy themselves. Maybe something hunts them down. Maybe the universe is simply hostile to life. But you found us eventually. Yes, and we were relieved. But we also learned something important. Marcus's eyes locked onto Vorthax's. We learned that for millions of years, while we were alone, we had been preparing. We had been fighting each other, improving our weapons, developing new ways to kill and survive. We had been training for a war that might never come. Vorthax felt the chill again, deeper this time. When humans finally met other intelligent life, Marcus said, we were ready. We did not know what we were preparing for, but we prepared anyway. Because that is what we are. We are the species that survives, no matter what, no matter the cost. The human turned back to his videos, dismissing the champion without another word. Vorthax left the medical bay. His mind was full of new and terrible knowledge. He thought about his upcoming fights, about the tournament, about glory and honor. But mostly he thought about a species of soft, fragile creatures who had turned themselves into the most dangerous thing in the universe simply by refusing to stop. The semi-final matches drew crowds larger than any previous round. Half the galaxy had stopped working to watch. The strange human who had defeated opponents twice his size had become the most talked-about fighter in the history of the games. Marcus Chen stood in the preparation area, rolling his shoulders and stretching his legs. His wounds from previous fights had mostly healed, leaving fresh pink scars among the older marks. He moved like water, smooth and flowing, every motion controlled and purposeful. His opponent for this match was different from the others. Krixara was a Shithani, a species known throughout the galaxy for their mental powers. They could read thoughts. They could predict movements before they happened. They could reach into an enemy's mind and find their fears, their weaknesses, their darkest memories. No warrior had ever defeated a Shithani in single combat. They always knew what was coming. They always moved before the attack arrived. Fighting them was like fighting a ghost who could see the future. Krixara stood on the other side of the preparation area. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes that glowed with soft light. She moved gracefully, almost floating across the floor. When she looked at Marcus, she smiled. "I have heard about you, human," she said. Her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You have impressed many people, but you will not impress me." Marcus said nothing. He continued his stretching. "I can see your thoughts," Krixara continued. "Every plan, every strategy, every move you are considering. You cannot hide anything from me." "I know," Marcus said calmly. "Then you understand that you have already lost." "We will see." The signal sounded. Both fighters walked into the arena. The crowd was quieter than usual. Everyone understood the nature of this match. Many believed they were about to watch the humans defeat. A few hoped for something more interesting. In his viewing box, Vorthax leaned forward. He had won his own semi-final match earlier, defeating a massive creature from a planet with crushing gravity. The victory had been easy. His mind was focused entirely on what he was about to witness. The fight began. Krixara attacked first. She moved with perfect precision, her hands reaching for pressure points that would shut down Marcus's body. Every strike was aimed exactly where it needed to be. But Marcus was not there. He slipped sideways, dodging an attack that should have been impossible to avoid. Krixara's eyes widened. She struck again. Again Marcus moved just in time. "How?" she whispered. "I can see your thoughts. I can see exactly what you plan to do." Marcus did not answer. He counterattacked, throwing a simple punch toward her face. Krixara read his intention and moved to block, but the punch changed direction at the last moment. It was not aimed at her face. It was aimed at her shoulder. She dodged wrong and the blow connected, sending her stumbling backward. "Your mind says one thing," Krixara said, her voice now touched with fear. "But your body does another. How is this possible?" In the stands, an old human diplomat smiled. He had explained this to the council before the match, but they had not believed him. Now they were seeing the truth with their own eyes. Humans had evolved in a dangerous world, surrounded by predators who were faster and stronger. They survived by developing something no other species had. They developed a separation between their conscious mind and their trained reflexes. Marcus's surface thoughts were calm and random. He was thinking about a song he had heard as a child. He was remembering the taste of his mother's cooking. He was wondering what the weather was like on Earth. But beneath those thoughts, deeper than Krixara could reach, his combat training lived in a different part of his brain. His body moved on pure instinct, reacting without conscious thought, executing techniques that had been practiced so many times they no longer required thinking. Krixara was reading the wrong layer. She was seeing the surface while the depths remained hidden. The fight continued. Krixara grew more desperate. She tried to push deeper into Marcus's mind, searching for the real thoughts, the real plans. But every time she pushed, she found something that made her flinch. Memories of human wars, cities burning, bodies stacked in piles, weapons that split atoms and turned the air into fire, humans killing each other in numbers too large to count. And beneath all of that, something even darker, a quiet voice that lived in the back of every human mind. A cold, patient presence that had kept the species alive through millions of years of danger. The survival instinct, the thing that made humans refuse to die. Krixara pulled back from Marcus's mind. Her face had gone pale. Her glowing eyes were wide with terror. "What are you?" she whispered. Marcus stepped forward. His fist moved, guided by reflex alone. The blow was not hard, but it was perfectly placed. Krixara collapsed to her knees, her body temporarily paralyzed. "I surrender," she said quickly, before he could strike again. "I surrender." The crowd exploded in noise. Some cheered. Some screamed in disbelief. A human had defeated a Shithani. The impossible had happened. But Krixara was not finished. She looked up at the stands, at the watching billions, and spoke in a voice that carried across the entire arena. "You do not understand what this creature is," she said. "I looked into his mind. I saw what lives inside humans. They have a monster in their heads, an ancient thing, born from millions of years of survival. They have learned to use it. They have learned to let it loose when they fight." The crowd fell silent. "Do not make enemies of these creatures," Krixara continued. "Do not go to war with them. They are not warriors. They are not hunters. They are something else entirely. Something that should not exist." She fell forward, unconscious from the stress of what she had experienced. Marcus stood alone in the arena. His face showed nothing. His heart beat slowly and steadily. The monster Krixara had seen was quiet now, resting in the depths of his mind, waiting for the next time it was needed. In his viewing box, Vorthax felt his hands shaking. Tomorrow, he would face this creature in the final match. Tomorrow, he would step into the arena with the monster that lived inside the human's mind. He had never lost a fight. He had never felt fear in combat. But, looking at the small, soft creature standing alone on the sand, Vorthax felt something he had not experienced since he was a child. He felt the certainty that he might not survive. The final match was set. Champion against human. Krethian against the monster. Every being in the galaxy would be watching. Vorthax returned to his chamber and did not sleep. He spent the night reading more about humans, watching recordings of their wars, studying their history of violence. By morning, he understood something terrible. If he wanted to win, he would have to kill the human. Not defeat him, not make him surrender. Kill him, because humans did not stop. They did not quit. They did not know how to give up. The only way to beat a human was to destroy it completely. And even then, Vorthax was not entirely sure it would stay dead. The arena had never been so full. Every seat was taken. Creatures stood in the aisles, pressed against walls, climbing on each other's shoulders to see. Outside the station, thousands of ships floated in space, their crews watching through screens. Across the galaxy, on a trillion different worlds, every eye was fixed on the same place. The final match of the Galactic Games. Champion against human. Vorthax entered the arena first. He walked slowly, his forearms loose at his sides, his armored body gleaming under the lights. The crowd cheered for him, their champion, their undefeated hero. He had won 63 matches in this arena. He had crushed opponents from every corner of known space. He was the greatest warrior of his generation. But today, his heart beat faster than usual. Today, his hands wanted to shake. He stopped in the center of the arena and waited. Marcus Chen walked out. The human looked even smaller than before. His body was covered in scars from his previous fights. Bandages wrapped around his shoulder where the Valeshi spine had pierced him. He walked with a slight limp from an injury that had not fully healed. The crowd fell silent. This soft, damaged creature was supposed to challenge the greatest warrior in the galaxy? Marcus stopped a few meters from Vorthax. They looked at each other. "You should not have come this far," Vorthax said quietly. "You should have lost. You should have been sent home." "Probably," Marcus agreed, "but here we are." "I will try to make this quick." "No," Marcus said. "You will try to kill me, because you know that is the only way to stop me." Vorthax did not deny it. There was no point in lying. The signal sounded. The final match began. Vorthax attacked with all four arms at once. He was faster than he had ever been, stronger than he had ever been, more desperate than he had ever been. His claws cut through the air like blades. Marcus moved, not fast enough. The first claw caught his side, opening a wound that sprayed blood across the sand. The second claw hit his arm, cutting deep into the muscle. He stumbled, fell, rolled away from the third and fourth strikes. The crowd roared. First blood. The human was already badly hurt. But Marcus got back up. He was bleeding heavily. His left arm hung useless at his side. His breathing was rough and painful, but his eyes had not changed. They were still calm, still patient, still watching. Vorthax attacked again. This time Marcus met the attack, stepping inside the reach of the longer arms. He struck Vorthax's chest with his good hand, aiming for the joint between armor plates. The blow hurt. It actually hurt. Vorthax grabbed the human and threw him across the arena. Marcus hit the wall hard, leaving a crack in the stone. He fell to the sand and did not move. The crowd began to chant. Victory. The human was finished. But Marcus got back up. This time, something was different. His face had changed. The calm expression was gone. Something else looked out through his eyes now. Something older. Something darker. The monster was awake. Marcus charged. His speed was impossible for someone so injured. He ducked under Vorthax's first swing, avoided the second, took the third claw directly through his shoulder, and kept coming. His forehead crashed into Vorthax's face with the force of a falling stone. The champion staggered backward. Stars exploded in his vision. In all his fights, no one had ever hit him in the head like that. The pain was incredible. But worse than the pain was what he felt through the contact. When their bodies touched, Vorthax felt a flash of what Marcus was feeling. Terrible, burning, overwhelming pain. His body was screaming at him to stop, to fall down, to give up. And beneath the pain, joy. The human was enjoying this. Every wound, every broken bone, every spray of blood made him feel more alive. He was not fighting despite the pain. He was fighting because of it. Vorthax stumbled back, horrified. Marcus did not give him time to recover. He attacked again, his one working arm striking weak points in Vorthax's armor. His teeth bit into exposed flesh. His knee drove into joints, trying to break them. The crowd had stopped cheering. They watched in silence as the small, bleeding human drove the champion of 63 battles backward across the arena. "Why?" Vorthax gasped. "Why do you not stop?" "I cannot stop," Marcus said. His voice was rough with pain and something like happiness. "This is what I am. This is what my species learned to be. We never stop. We keep coming until we win or until we die. That is madness." "Yes." Marcus smiled, and his teeth were red with blood. But it is our madness, and it is beautiful. He attacked again. Vorthax blocked with all four arms, but one of the human strikes got through. A finger jabbed into a gap in Vorthax's neck armor, pressing against a nerve cluster. Lightning pain shot through the champion's body. For a moment, his arms went weak. For a moment, Marcus had an opening. The human did not hesitate. He locked both his hands around Vorthax's primary arms, trapping them. Vorthax tried to pull free, but the human's grip was iron. How could something so soft be so strong? Vorthax's secondary arms struck out. One claw drove directly through Marcus's torso, punching out through his back. Blood poured from the wound. No creature could survive such damage. But Marcus did not fall. He used the claw in his body as an anchor. He pulled himself closer to Vorthax. Their faces were centimeters apart. The human's eyes locked on to the champion's, and then Marcus drove his forehead into Vorthax's face one more time. The psychic shock of the impact carried more than just physical pain. It carried everything Marcus was feeling. All the pain, all the determination, all the impossible, endless will to survive. And beneath it all, the monster. The thing that lived in every human brain. The evolutionary survival instinct that had kept their species alive through millions of years of danger. Vorthax had never felt anything like it. It was not a warrior's spirit. It was not courage or bravery. It was something more basic. An absolute refusal to die that went deeper than thought, deeper than instinct, deeper than bone. The champion of 63 battles fell to his knees. He could still fight. He could still win. The human was dying, bleeding out from the claw wound. All Vorthax had to do was wait, but he could not make himself move. The thing he had felt inside the human's mind had broken something in him. His certainty, his pride, his belief that he was the greatest warrior in the galaxy. He had faced a monster today, and the monster was still standing. "I yield," Vorthax said. The crowd gasped. The undefeated champion had surrendered. Marcus Chen swayed on his feet. The light was starting to fade from his eyes, but before he collapsed, he reached down and offered his hand to the fallen champion. "Good fight," he whispered. Then he fell unconscious. Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor. They worked frantically to save both fighters. Against all odds, they succeeded. Human bodies, it turned out, were extremely difficult to kill if treatment came quickly enough. 3 days later, Vorthax visited Marcus in the medical bay. The human was wrapped in bandages, tubes running into his body, machines keeping him alive while he healed. "You could have killed me," Vorthax said. "When you had my arms locked, you could have broken my neck." "Maybe," Marcus said. His voice was weak but calm. "But that was not why I came here." "Why did you come?" "To show everyone what humans are, to make sure the galaxy knows who we are." Marcus smiled faintly. "So that no one ever makes the mistake of trying to conquer us." Vorthax was silent for a long moment. Then he stood and faced the viewing window, looking out at the stars. "I will speak to the council," he said. "I will tell them what I learned today. I will tell them what I felt in your mind." "What will you tell them?" Vorthax turned back to look at the small, fragile, impossibly dangerous creature lying in the medical bed. "I will tell them that humans must never be made into enemies. I will tell them that your species does not know how to surrender. I will tell them that if they ever go to war with Earth, they will not conquer you. They will only teach you where they live." Marcus closed his eyes. "Thank you." Vorthax left the medical bay. He had lost his undefeated record. He had been broken by a creature half his size. But he had learned something more valuable than any victory. He had learned that the galaxy had a new kind of warrior, and they were more terrifying than anything that had come before. 1 year later, the Galactic Games introduced a new rule. Human fighters were placed in their own separate division. not as discrimination, as a quarantine. Some species were simply too dangerous to fight.